In this video, we're talking all about Tiana's Bayou adventure, but not the attraction necessarily. We're talking about the ancillary stuff like the gift shops, Critter Country, the area around it. There was some big news that dropped yesterday in regard to this. We're going to talk about it, break it down. I got Ebba, Michael Ebba, our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. I got the Italiana, the Joe Pesci of Disney YouTube, here with me today to talk shop. Up next on OG 55. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG 55. I got the boys with me today. We're talking all about Tiana's Bayou adventure. A lot of really cool, exciting news that dropped yesterday in regards to this attraction. But before we dive into our festivities, I want to introduce my fantastic panel. We got George, the Italiano, host of the one and only Citrus Corner show here on the channel. George, welcome back, sir.
Thanks for having me back on. And yeah, we're going to dive into a lot. I remember you brought this topic up to me over the phone, and I'm thinking, it's just a couple little things here or there. We could do it on a lunch break kind of recording. And no, you're like rolling out the receipts. I'm like, okay, yeah, this isn't a 45-minute show, so we got a lot to talk about.
Absolutely. If you can let everybody home know where they can find you on social media.
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you'll find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There we go. He is officially in the house. And down below, we got our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, Mr. Michael Ebba. Mr. Ebba, welcome back, sir. And where can they find you on social media?
Of course, OG. Thank you so much again for having me back on. It's always a pleasure and so much fun. So you can find me on Instagram, Michael Ebba, Twitter /X at Michael Ebba 1991. And you can find me here right with the boys at OG 55. That's right, guys. Let's do this.
Let's rock and roll, guys. Let's do this. Okay, so this was actually yesterday, and this is courtesy of the one, the only, Mr. Scott Gooston. He's the mainstay here at OG 55. We utilize his stuff a lot. Very concise, very to the point. I like the way he kind of presents the news. He's also just a nice guy. But look, okay, so there's a lot of stuff going on, right? This was the Briar Patch, the former gift shop for Splash Mountain. Obviously, we knew they were going to change it, right? I mean, they weren't going to keep it that way. And this artwork dropped yesterday, and it was kind of controversial. There were a lot of people kind of throwing some shade at this thing, and like they really hated it, the whole 9 yards. I'll start off with my opinion, then I'll go to George and then Ebba. I don't hate this. I really don't. I mean, it's like, I don't know what people were really expecting. Is what I'm trying to say. Like it does the job. It's the new theme, which is Tiana's, right? And it kind of pays homage to the former attraction with the style of the sign and what have you. It also brings a character, Ray, into the equation, which is actually very interesting because we're told that this attraction is a sequel attraction, right? So technically this character shouldn't be part of this attraction. Now, I know technically this is a gift shop. I understand that, but it would be kind of strange to feature a character not in the attraction in the gift shop. Now, not saying that they won't do that. Okay, they might, and there's a good chance that they probably will do that. But also people have to remember that right in the middle of this whole retheme, right, there were some management changes where Bruce Vaughn came in the middle of this whole situation. Bruce Vaughn came in before they even shut our Splash Mountain down here in Anaheim. It's not too crazy to think that possibly Bruce Vaughn wasn't happy with what he was seeing. He wanted to bring some of the characters from the movie into the storyline. It's possible that he heard the complaints on social media about a lot of these characters not being in this attraction and decided to work them into the story. There are a lot of possibilities here. I know a lot of fans are kind of poo-pooing this, like, no, he's not in the ride. I'm not saying that Ray's going to be in there for sure, but I wouldn't completely count it out. We just don't know, and we have to like kind of understand that there were management changes along the way. So that's what, for me personally, more than anything else, more than the look of the gift shop, more than the name and all that stuff, I think that just Ray's presence to me was the big takeaway. Now, one more last thing, and I'll get to you, George. A lot of people were complaining about Ray's berets, saying that is that the hype train behind you, George? That's the hype train. I thought I heard it. No, maybe not.
Yeah, it might have been in the distance.
Might have been. A lot of people were complaining about Ray's berets and saying, "Well, it's a pun, and why are we doing these puns?" Hey, do y'all remember the Wizard of Bras on Main Street? Okay, during Walt's Day, this has kind of been a Disneyland mainstay for a long time. These puns, number one. Number two, I don't know. I kind of like it. It's kind of a spiffy little name. It's not the worst thing ever, but anyway, overall, I dig it. It's not terrible. I understand there's a lot of people within the culture war that are just going to hate this thing no matter what they do. Every little thing is going to be the worst thing ever. For me, there's been some good stuff like this. There's been some not so good stuff with the overuse of the foliage on the mountain. It's hit or miss for me, but overall, I'm optimistic about this retheme. George, Ray's berets, thoughts?
So for me, yeah, I'm with you, OG. I don't know like what people expected it to become. Like if they saw that this was supposed to be some big elaborate gift shop. I don't know. Of course, it wasn't going to stay the Briar Patch forever. Obviously, it was going to be rethemed to something else, and more so because the bigger chunk of the land was going to be based off of Tiana. It was going to be Tiana inspired, rethemed. Aesthetically, I think it's very pleasing. I love how they kind of have where they have like the lit at night with like the fireflies like down in the bayou, a lot of the grass, but it kind of looks like that's where you would like walk into the bayou. So that's like the top part of the roof of the building itself is like if it were to be the ground, and they kind of have like the wood, kind of be like aesthetically pleasing. That something that you would see in the bayou. It's something very simple. Again, I think it would tie into the land perfectly, and as far as naming it Ray's berets, I don't mind the puns. I don't mind the rhymes. It is what it is. I mean, are we all going to just stand around and in front of a fire, holding hands, singing "Kumbaya" in front of this thing? No, it's like it's a gift shop that's part of a land. You go in it, you buy stuff, you leave. No one's going to really pay attention to it after the fact it's done. It's just there to be optically pleasing to the eye with the rest of the land. With using the character of Ray himself, I think is very interesting. Because again, as you said, the intention was to not really utilize the characters that are no longer, into the storyline after the original plot of The Princess and the Frog, Ray being one of those characters. Now, this could just be simply, in a way like Tiana paying, tribute to her friend, and that's what she named the store after. It could be something as simple as that. Or there could be some hidden secret meaning behind it, that there's a possibility that, they may incorporate Ray and a couple other characters that they say that were not supposed to be in this ride, which we'll dive into that in a little bit. But it's also to the fact of, I do want to touch upon a little bit of how the fans react to these sort of things, where it's like, okay, well, because something was mentioned in the very beginning of this main concept, because Ray and Dr. Facilier were not supposed to be part of this ride, there's no way that they could be incorporated in now, especially for how far along the attraction is. Disney can do anything with the modern technology that's out there today. It doesn't necessarily have to be an audio animatronic. They can incorporate these characters using LED screens. They can use just audio. They can use
projection mapping.
Projection mapping. Exactly.
You can have a shadow of Dr. Facilier even projected on the wall or something like that. I mean, and not to say that's going to happen. I'm not saying everybody like, OG is saying this is going to happen. These characters are in the ride. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying have an open mind. I'm just saying that we had a significant management change in the middle of this thing Bruce Vaughn came in. It's a possibility that he came in and made some changes to this. And to poo-poo it and pretend like that's not a factor, I think you're just being a little naive, to be honest, because I think that is a possibility. And I think that the gift shop being named after the character that was supposedly not in this ride is actually very, very interesting. So we'll see. I mean, yeah, I think you make some great points. Continue. I'm sorry, brother.
No, you're good. And one last point before we move on to our neighborhood friendly Spider-Man, that we also have to take into consideration, and this is a fair point, that a lot of conversation has been brought up by Jay Rizzullo, with the proxy battle and everything. But speaking of him, when he was Parks chairman back in 2009 at the very first D23 Expo, when they had the Parks presentation, he announced the new Fantasyland project, and majority of that was nothing more than just a bunch of princess meet and greets, Cinderella's French Chateau, Aurora's woodland cottage in the forest for Sleeping Beauty. And it's like, okay, the concept was there, the announcement was made at the ultimate D23 fan event of the year, the very first one ever, but it can't be changed, right? Nope. Here comes Tom Staggs, and he's like, you know what? We need something that's a little bit catering to both, boys and girls, because I have two young boys. There's nothing here that appeals to them. And lo and behold, the Cinderella and Aurora meet and greet become Seven Dwarfs Mine Train.
Right. And here's the thing, George, and I'm so sorry, but real quick, I promise. But here's the thing with management. I've worked a lot of jobs in my life, office jobs, what have you. When new management comes in, they always want to make kind of a name for themselves, or they want to make changes almost immediately, right? Kind of put their fingerprint on that department or on that, whatever they're managing, okay? I've seen this over and over again in my personal life. When Bruce Vaughn came in, it would be very unlikely he would come into the situation and just be like, yeah, everything's perfect, I'm not going to change anything. It's very unlikely that happened. Almost certainly, he came in and saw things he did not like, and he wanted to work or kind of tweak that a little bit. It's almost a certainty, in my opinion. So does that mean Facilier and Ray will be in this attraction? No, not necessarily. But I'm just saying keep it as an option, because you just don't know when he came in what bugged him and what did he feel needed to be changed. So we'll see. Go ahead, Ebba. What are your thoughts on Ray's Berets?
All right, so I have a lot of thoughts on this, and they're not cohesive because my brain just goes like that everywhere. But OG, could you bring back up the screen?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, brother.
So I wanted to get to. So first of all, I just want to say that I actually, when this was announced, okay, so this shop and also Lewis's Critter Club, I actually showed my wife this, right, and she's like, "Oh, that's awesome!" So she, as like a Disney kind of theme park normie, she's super excited about it. So I'm curious as to what the kind of normies are going to think about this, right? Like, are they even going to care if this is changing, or again, a lot of the Tiana IP that we'll probably talk about later that's kind of happening. So focusing on this shop right here, Raise Berets, I'm fine with it. I don't know what the fandom is complaining about. This is a shop that that's attached to the ride, right? Tiana's. And yeah, the Raised Berets, I like the name. I like the rhyming. The shop, at least the concept art looks nice. I like the fireflies and the grass on top. It's very in theme with like the Bayou. And yeah, I don't know what's there to complain about, but I agree with you guys 100% on everything. Ray being there, like for at least in terms of like the the shop here, it's interesting because like you said, it's like we were kind of told, or we know that this ride's supposed to be a sequel, but they can always make the changes. So I'm very curious on if okay guys, if if he is in the attraction somehow with a readjustment to the story. But yeah, no, I'm fine with this. It was cool. I mean, when it was a Briar Patch, I barely went there myself anyway, so I don't really care. But I do like new stuff. It's coming, so guys, embrace it. um,
Yeah.
and my only thing, and this is just me personally, like I've told you guys before, I'm not really a big merchandise person, but I hope we get some pretty cool merchandise stuff in this little store. So that honestly, that's all I'm really asking for, just cool merchandise.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely, and you'll get. I think you'll get a lot of like, kind of like maybe, kind of Tiana style hats and things like that in there that you can buy, berets, things like that, right? And we'll see. Now, hats are obviously big business at Disneyland. The Mad Hatter does good, very, very well over there on Main Street, and I think they have another one actually right next to the teacups. Another Mad Hatter. There's actually two Mad Hatters, and you can sell. You can buy mouse ears there and what have you. You could probably do that here as well. It's probably going to be another one of those kind of stores. It's all good, man. It's all good. I just don't understand all the hysteria over this stuff. Like, is it that much of a downgrade from what was here before? It was the Briar Patch, like this incredible themed immersive experience. Like, I
No,
mean,
it wasn't. I've been in there a few times, and I'm like, oh, this is it. Walk right out. I mean, it looked just like any other of this Disney stores that are, or any of the shops that are around Disneyland. I wasn't like, it's not impressive to me. Nothing was in that was like, oh my god, I got to be in here to get something. It just wasn't. So I really hope they have some cool, like, themed merchandise in this shop. I like how it looks, and yeah, guys. I mean, not you guys, but in the fandom. I don't know why you're complaining for. Like, enjoy what this is, dude. It's
yeah, it just seems weird to me. It seems weird to me. And then people were complaining. People were even complaining about how the sign looks similar to the Briar Patch because of the font and everything. That's clearly an homage to the former, maybe signage or the former attraction. A lot of people were trying to insinuate that that was like a cost saving move. They still have to. They still have to. They still have to change the sign to say "Raised Berets" on there, though. So they're going to change it anyway. They could have changed the font if they're going to have to write the new name on there anyway. So clearly, it's not a cost-saving measure.
And here's the thing: if I could just touch upon this just a little bit, when the fandom says, "Okay, they're doing this for cost saving," for me, as long as it's not where it's being done in a cheaply manner, where it's like things start like falling apart, it's like, but if you can make something equally as good, but you just cut corners to cut costs to save more for the company than to just shell out and spend money and waste it. It's like, I don't really see necessarily a problem with that. It's like, even us in our everyday living, we try to, cut costs in every day, like no matter what, like our jobs are, no matter what our wages are. It's like anyone, tries to save a dollar, and with these big worldwide companies, especially trying to get up on their feet, they're going to try to do as much as they possibly can, but do it in a respectful, financial stable manner.
Yeah, and not everything needs to be $1 billion thing, and not everything. You don't need to throw $1 bajillion at every little project either. Like, you can, like, this isn't a merch store, a gift shop that you need to spend a huge amount of money to like retheme. Like, this isn't like that serious, and this looks fine. Like, I don't understand what the issue is, right?
Well, yeah. Sorry, OG, and yeah, exactly, you're right. And it's like, I guarantee you, all the people who are complaining about it never even visited this shop in the first place.
I'm telling you, yeah, this shop is like something that, like, I feel like, even I'm a local, I go all the time, and it's like, I'm not in this shop all the time. I don't think a lot of locals are, to be honest with you. It's kind of a forgotten shop a little bit,
Yeah, exactly. Well, because it's kind of tucked there, like right as you turn the corner, and so you don't see it until you pass by. But then, even then, I'm not looking for it. Like when you go in there, there wasn't a lot of people waiting in line to buy stuff there. So I mean, like, I don't know what the big deal is, guys. Like,
well, I think the big deal is, I'm gonna be real candid right now, and people won't like. Some people might not like what I have to say, but I think the big deal is that this attraction has become a centerpiece in the culture war. So every little thing that this thing is going to present to us, whether it be the gift shop, whether it be the paint job, whether it be this, that, or the other, it doesn't matter what it is. Okay. There's going to be people that are just going to crap all over it because they see it as woke or whatever, and it's like, that's fine. That's your politics. That's fine. You have a right to feel that way. I get it. You know what I'm saying? But let's actually, like, maybe judge the stuff on on its own accord, instead of through that political prism all the fucking time. You know what I'm saying? It's okay to, like, say, hey, look, you know what? I don't really like if you're a conservative or whatever, and you're like, I don't really agree with retheming this, but okay, I like the gift shop, or, oh man, I don't like this, or, oh, I like that. Just at least, can we at least judge this stuff like without the politics involved, right? Like it's a gift shop, it's a hat store. Like stop bringing your stupid politics into this. And there's going to be good things in this attraction that are better than Splash Mountain, and there's going to be things in this attraction that will be less and not as good, and that's okay. It's okay. We don't have to hyperventilate over it. But before we move on to the next gift shop, any thoughts, George? Before we move on,
no, I think we covered it all. I think, yeah, I think honestly, it's just a little bit of a breath of fresh air that even if there's nothing more to it, there's nothing tying, the characters that were not supposed to be in the ride and they're not in the ride. If nothing else, I'm just glad that Ray is represented in some manner.
That's true. And that might be like we talked about Bruce Vaughn, right? Maybe that's one of his moves where, okay, we can't change the storyline in the attraction, but maybe we can incorporate this beloved character in the gift shop as a kind of a constellation prize, right? Or something like that. So it could be something like that. Absolutely. And again, we're not saying that he's going to for sure be in the attraction. We're just putting it out there like, hey, you know what? It's a possibility. Maybe this is a sign that there's more Ray in this attraction than we thought there was going to be. That's all we're saying. But now this store, go ahead, Eva. I'm sorry.
Sorry, OG. So I just want to two things. So back to Ray's berets. I don't have a problem with the shop in particular, and I don't have a problem with this in particular. But I have an issue with the overall scope of what's happening in the area, which we'll probably get to in this or maybe after it.
I actually know what you're getting at, and I actually agree with you with that.
But my other thing is back to all the complaining. It's like I just want to bring up to people like, okay, so Walt Disney Imagineering, Disney, right? Imagine OG or you, George, right? You guys are doing your job, right? And your job is like in the public eye. How would it feel, right, to have constantly people complaining to you all the time about how crappy your work is, right, or how bad it is, or how much they don't want that? Like how would you as a human being make you feel? I think like it must be like it must feel sucky for the people who are creating this stuff, right? Because anything they are putting out, whether it's Tiana's or something else, people are just crapping all over them.
Yeah, and it would be one thing if I look, and I could be wrong. This is my assessment of the situation. It would be one thing if it was an honest kind of assessment of the work.
Right.
But I feel like with this attraction, it's not an honest assessment of the work. It's we don't like the politics behind it, so therefore we're going to find things to hate. That's the issue I have. I don't care if you don't like what they're doing. I have an issue because it doesn't feel genuine. It feels like forced hate because you don't like the retheme. Not you, Eva. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
People don't like the retheme because of the social whatever, right? So politics. So they don't like the retheme. So we're going to just dislike everything about it. That's what bothers me. If you don't like the store, you don't like the sign, you don't like this, you don't like that, there's nothing wrong with not liking something Disney does. It's very healthy to be critical. But when you go into this with like, well, it's woke, and therefore everything this thing does is just going to be the worst thing ever because if it's woke, that's where you'll lose me. That's where people lose me. Absolutely. Go ahead.
It's not even opened yet. We don't know not one thing that's going to go on with this ride internally. We know the layout of the attraction because it's basically the same ride through as what Splash Mountain was, but everything that's tied to the audio animatronics, we got the gist of the storyline, of what it is, but we still don't know how it's going to feel like. What's going to be the music? What's the lighting going to be like? What's everything combined into one package? What is that going to feel like? And you can't say it's no good because it's not open yet. We don't know what it is. And even when it is opened, I'm sorry, you cannot give your full 110% honest opinion unless your ass is in the park, your ass gets into the log, and you ride the ride, and then you can make a generalized assumption of your personal opinion of how you feel about that ride.
Agreed.
Yeah, no, well said. And so that's what it comes down to, just give an honest assessment of what you think about this ride and stop, like force hating it because you think it's, some agenda or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And it gets, in my opinion, it gets a little grating. It gets really old. And I think that I think we have, as fans, we have to move on from Splash Mountain. It's enough already. This thing has changed. It's going to be Tiana now. People have to move on from that. You can miss the old ride. There's nothing wrong with missing the old ride. You miss it, cool. there comes a point though where you gotta build a bridge and get over it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Well, and OG, and sorry, I know we're taking
No, you're fine.
But I was even the one. I'll admit, I was one of the ones who was not happy at all with when they announced Tiana coming to take over Splash Mountain, because I love Splash Mountain, right? And when they announced it, when they were gonna take it over, I was like, okay, well, first of all, the timing was very. I didn't like the timing. Let's put it that way. Okay. But I was like, how can you like Splash Mountain? Like the music pieces also are like very Disney, right? Like Zippity Doo Dah was like Disney's like national anthem, pretty much, and like you have these like cute little like characters, and it's like it's such a great ride, and then you're gonna replace it with this, which I'm not again. I wasn't against the Tiana ride, but I was like, I don't want it to replace this, so I was very much upset about it. But I've moved on from it. Like, hey, we're getting it. Okay, cool. I'm excited to now see what the new tech's going to be, what the new AAs are going to be. They're going to probably fix the track, some of the structure, right? Getting new stuff, right? So I've moved past that of being upset about it. Now I'm looking forward to seeing what the new stuff's going to be.
Yeah, and another thing too that I see a lot of people kind of prejudging, a lot of people actually on X, are the logs, because the Brer Rabbit has been cut off. And it hasn't been replaced with anything, right? It's like, look, that might be the finalized version. There might not be an ornament on at the front of these logs. Maybe there won't be. I don't know. But that's the thing. We don't know. The ride is not done yet. Like, can we wait and see? Like, the ornament would obviously be prefabricated separately and attached later. So can we wait and see? Maybe they will attach maybe little frogs or something at the end of that. But there's this like jump to conclusions of like, well, if it's not there this very instant, therefore it must not be happening at all. You don't know that though. Like, that's the issue.
And honestly, even if they don't prefabricate to put frogs on the front part of the log, it's not the end of the world.
It's not.
It's like adding a frog to the front of the log is not gonna make or break the attraction. The attraction is either going to be good because it's good, or it's going to be not so good because they did a crappy job at it. Adding a frog to the log is not gonna. It's not gonna make any difference.
Yeah, well, actually, it would be kind of cool though for the cast members to be like, how many people in your party? Okay, 2 front of the frog log, please. Frog log it's just a great name. It really is. Yeah. No, but that's what it's just. You just have to have people need to like not be so quick to jump to conclusions with this stuff, because we just don't know. And again, saying that doesn't mean that OG's being like, oh, we're definitely getting an ornament. I don't know. I'm not in the room, and neither are you guys. Nobody is, except Imagineers. But the people that we communicate with in the community, most of them, 99.9%, are not in that room making those decisions, and we just don't know. Look at the changes that have been happening, even like after the fact with like Toontown, or even like Pixar Pier. I remember they were adding stuff after the grand opening. Like even after it opens, sometimes Disney's adding stuff to this stuff. So
Emotional Whirlwind. Emotional Whirlwind didn't open when they changed the pier to Pixar. That came a little bit afterwards, where they revamped the Flix Flyers.
Well, the beanstalk it's a pathetic beanstalk, let's be honest. But the beanstalk that comes out of the Runaway Railway building, or the facade in Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway at Disneyland, was added like months later. So, and again, with the ornaments on the front of the log, that might not. Yeah, maybe that'll come weeks later. Who knows? We don't know though. That's the thing, and that's why it bothers me with all this like definitive stuff. Like, oh man, they're not doing it. Like, you don't know. You just don't know. But this was actually this particular gift shop right here was actually Pooh's Corner, right? Which coincided with the adjacent, the Pooh ride. Now it's going to be. This is interesting. This is actually very interesting. Now it's going to be Lewis's Critter Club. Now, this is actually, in my opinion, kind of a brilliant name. And I know that people are going to be like, what is OG talking about? Why is this brilliant? It's kind of generic. It really isn't, though, because what I think it does really well is it takes the animals, the critters of the Princess and the Frog franchise, and it basically kind of it's a beautiful kind of like melding of the two, of Critter Country and Tiana's, that I think works really well. And I think this was actually what I was hoping they would do with this, because now you can keep Critter Country because the critters of Princess and the Frog are represented here. They're still critters, though. They're still critters. So the theme of Critter Country still works, but you're tying it to the adjacent attraction, Tiana. So now this particular gift shop works for both the general area of Critter Country on that right-hand side and Tiana's Bayou Adventure. So I thought that was a beautiful kind of segue that they did there. And I think that was actually really, really smart. But George, what are your thoughts on this? The name, the look of it?
As far as the name goes, that was very smart on Disney's behalf, that they kind of make it like an overall widespread to just not really name it just Lewis's Club, or, they actually, by using the term critter, it leaves it open that if they want to add anything else or change anything in the future that would still kind of tie into the critter aspect, they can still keep this name without needing to rebrand it and rename it. As far as the aesthetics of the building goes, I love how there's two different looks to both Lewis's Critter Club and Ray's Berets, because Ray's Berets kind of gives that outdoorsy kind of feel where it's like the building is part of the land, so to speak. You got like the grass on top with the fireflies, tied to the wood, kind of like a log cabin type of thing, where this building kind of resembles an actual building, like kind of like you would see like in the boondocks, so to speak, down in the bayou. So I love how you get like two different variations of something that you would see, in Louisiana.
And personally, I like this look better than the other one. Like, I think this one looks better, but both, I think both look good, but if I were to pick one over the other, I think this one, I like a little more, but what do you think, Ebba? What do you think about Critter Club?
Yeah, so again, like this, again, it's concept art, but I'm pretty sure it'll look very similar to this. And I like it, I actually really like the name. And here's the thing I just thought of too, is that the name, right, Critter Club, to me, that reinforces the idea that Disney is not going to that they're not going to go away from the critter aspect, right? So Critter Country, right? So I feel like they still want to keep Critter Country as its own separate like land, right? So I'm really happy about that. If that's what they're doing, that's great. I also really like the aesthetic of this too. It's very like what George was saying, that kind of like Bayou type of like house, out there. Looks very nice. And it looks cool. I don't have a problem with it. I love how we have Lewis up there with his trumpet. So yeah, it looks beautiful.
It looks good. Yeah, it looks good. Now Scott Gustin, we're going to dive into a little bit more here, but Scott Gustin says that it says here, update, when the land closes on May 1st, Hungry Bear Restaurant will remain open, but the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh will be closed. No changes are planned for Winnie the Pooh when it reopens with the land. What do you got to think about that, about them kind of closing the land? And what are your thoughts on that, George?
So for me, right now, yes, I believe, that they can't afford right now to lose any kind of attractions right now, have as much as they can. And Winnie the Pooh, it's a staple in the park. It's a great family ride. It's good for the, younger kids and what have you. Not even just for young kids. I have to admit, I'm a grown man. I enjoy the ride. I actually like it much better than the one in Magic Kingdom. But to be honest with you, I don't really see, and I do get the critter aspect of, the characters in the 100 Acre Wood and everything. But I guess every time that I look at the Winnie the Pooh characters, they remind me of stuffed animals, which essentially that's what they are. He's full of stuff and fluff. It doesn't give me like that full on kind of like outdoorsy kind of feel to it. Especially because that you then have a British kind of UK IP tied into like with the Louisiana Bayou. It just doesn't mesh well for me. Now, does that mean that they're going to change it indefinitely? I don't know. We, again, as OG said, we don't know. Recently, like right now, no. In time, okay, I'm going to say a bold statement here. I think honestly, in time, they will flush Pooh. They definitely will flush poo.
Well,
I think that they'll get rid of? What were you gonna say, Edgy?
well, no, you're onto something with that. I think because in the early 2000s, when they made Winnie the Pooh ride here, Pooh was a merchandise king, right?
Yeah.
That was one of the justifications to building that attraction. But I think we're starting to see the Pooh merchandise, the demand wane. The fact that they're turning this into a Tiana's gift shop, basically, with the critters, but it's still kind of themed to the Princess and the Frog IP. They're not all in on the Pooh anymore. So is this character still as viable as it was 20 plus years ago? Maybe not, because this retheme kind of indicates that maybe the Pooh stuff isn't selling like it once was, and the huge store doesn't justify it. Go ahead, George.
Right. So for me, and here I might get some heat for this, but for me, I feel when I think of Winnie the Pooh, it feels more Fantasyland. So in time, if they ever, no, not going to say if, when they do a Fantasyland expansion in time, possibly move it over to another area, but leaving the building and kind of going back to its roots, because in Magic Kingdom, we're getting a brand spanking new Country Bear Jamboree with brand new audio animatronics, new storyline, incorporating the Disney songs. And honestly, the Country Bears gives more of that southern, outdoorsy Louisiana vibe than Pooh ever would. So they know that they can fit the Country Bears in there because that was the original location.
Right.
And they don't have to worry about, you're putting in an old retired attraction, but technically you're not, because it's getting revamped anyway.
Well, and keep in mind too, George, that what I'm hearing is that a lot of these Country Bears are going to be new animatronics.
They are.
What happens when Disney does new stuff? They build two. And they build two because it's cheaper to buy in bulk. So it's possible that maybe, and I don't want to get people too excited, but I mean, all we're saying is it's a possibility that, especially if the reimagined Country Bear show is very popular in Florida, I wouldn't discount the idea of it coming back in that spot. I really would not, because if it's really big in Florida with this, where they're singing Disney songs and the whole thing, they might bring it back. The Pooh ride at Disneyland, I don't know. Is there much demand for that thing? I mean, I don't really ever wait that long for that ride. It doesn't seem like it's
and especially because of the location for it, you have to walk all the way down and then walk back up, because Critter Country is basically like a locked land right now. But majority of the time now, especially when Tiana's Bayou Adventure opens, everyone's going to go to that land to ride that. They're not really going to necessarily focus on Winnie the Pooh.
Right.
Yeah, and also, it's just my opinion. I know I like Pooh Bear and all the characters there, right? But I still don't think it should have ever replaced Country Bears. I think we should have kept Country Bears the entire time, because now we have Hungry Bear, which is kind of like homage, like a old part of that section, right? And it's like, now it doesn't kind of make any sense, because you got Pooh Bear, but then you got like the Hungry Bears, where
it's more rustic.
Yeah, like you have the Country Bear characters that are there, and it's like, so that's like the only thing. And if they brought back the Country Bears, like, that'd be awesome, because here's the thing too: Disneyland needs like another like theater indoor show. And besides besides Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, we don't have another like indoor theater show. And if they can bring back the new version of the Country Bears, George, over here, that'll be another, again, indoor theater show that people can have, where they can chill out from the sun, or if it's raining, or whatnot.
And correct me if I'm wrong. Sorry to interrupt you, Mike. What was unique about that location that we don't have in Florida is that building holds two theaters, correct? Was it two theaters for the Country Bears? Do you know?
I don't remember, to be honest.
Okay, because if I thought that's what it was, and I could be wrong. If it was, then that still holds a lot of for guest flow. If you can get a lot of people in those seats, it definitely helps with that.
Yeah. Now, before we close it out today, I want to ask one thing. This is going to be a meaty topic, okay? So now we have that gift shop in New Orleans, the new Tiana gift shop. It's over by the Blue Bayou, along that little strip there. Like a home store, I think it is what they call it, like a Tiana home store kind of, which is actually pretty cute. They have some pretty cute merch over there, to be honest. And then we got Tiana's Palace, right? And then now we got Tiana's Bayou Adventure, and then we got Ray's Berets, and then the Lewis's Critter Club. George, now I like this franchise, but is this a little too much?
It is definitely too much. I do love aesthetically, like how they made the gift shops look and everything. It is what it is. We're getting them anyway, so we might as well kind of enjoy it, for what it is. Do I feel like it's taking up a big chunk out of the space, literally from where New Orleans Square is all the way down to Critter Country? Abso-freaking-lutely. That is like way too much Tiana IP, I think. Again, not saying it's a bad IP, not saying it doesn't work. It works very well. I love how they can incorporate Tiana, because you then have New Orleans Square, and then it segues into Critter Country. So, and the Princess and the Frog movie kind of has the best of both worlds in that sense. But I just think that they kind of overly did it with so much Tiana. I really do. And I do hope in time with Disneyland Forward, if they could even like kind of expand out Critter Country with different IP, and that where it still ties into the Critter Country storyline, I'm all for it, because I feel like that just calling it Critter Country, but you're only going to have the Tiana IP in it, it doesn't really mesh well. And then again, you have Winnie the Pooh there, and again, that never really fit for me for Critter Country, so I don't really count that, and that's why I think bringing back the Country Bears will kind of alleviate some of that. Yeah, and it fits in with the look.
Yeah, Country Bears would bring a little bit more variety in there. Absolutely. What do you think, Ebba? A little too much Tiana? Are you okay with it?
So that's the thing, right? Is that you look at New Orleans and you look at Critter Country, take Tiana out, right? I mean, besides on the South, both lands were pretty much like original IP at Disneyland, right? So now you're shoving an IP in there. Again, I love Princess and the Frog. Now you're shoving IP into both lands now, because yes, it does have the balance of, it does have both worlds, New Orleans and Critters, right? Which is great. But now you got so you got Pirates, Tiana shit, then you got more Tiana shit, then you got Haunted Mansion, Tiana shit, and then Tiana shit, and then Hungry Bear. And I'm like, wait, like this huge.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
And again, I love the IP, I do, but it's like either they probably should have like made it like Tiana's like its own like land, maybe just took out Critter Country and made it like Tiana's Critter Country or something. I don't know, but to have it spread across from New Orleans all the way back there, that's a lot. You're taking up a lot of space with that, the IP. And
I would have consolidated a little bit. What I would have done was I wouldn't have done the Tiana's Palace where they put it. I would have kept that the way it was. What was that? That was the French Market, right?
French Market.
I would have kept it the French Market. And what I would have done is actually I would have really went all in on Hungry Bear and made that Tiana's Palace. Ideally, it would be cool to convert that into Tiana's Palace and somehow make it where you can attach it to the attraction and eat inside of Tiana's Bayou Adventure, being it's a ride and attraction based on food. Mm-hmm. I think it'd be kind of cool to have that kind of Blue Bayou experience in Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Would have been really neat, But I think if you would have just done, even if you don't do the inside the attraction thing, and you just would have made Hungry Bear Tiana's Palace, it consolidates it all, and it's kind of it works a little bit more than having it so spread out.
Now with Hungry Bear titled as a national landmark, can they? Are there restrictions to how they can alter that in any way, or as long as they keep the building up itself, but they can retheme it, it's perfectly fine? Or how does that work?
I haven't dove into that yet. We might have to do a Disneyland Forward video about that topic, actually, because it's interesting. I know of that historical landmark thing that they discussed. I don't know all those stipulations and the ins and outs of it. but that might complicate things for that. You're right. That might be an issue. Who knows?
Well, and also, OG, just to kind of maybe just push back a little bit on you about that Tiana's turning Hungry Bear into Tiana's.
Yeah.
What I really love about Hungry Bear is how that really fits into like the naturey part
That's
of
true.
like the rivers of America, right? So when I go there to eat, I like to sit on the top deck by the side, watch the Columbia Mark Twain go by. You see the train, you see the river. It's very like in that nature woodsy aspect, right? So I love how that fits. If you build a Tiana restaurant there, which you could, now her restaurant is like an indoor dining area, right? So then I feel like you'd be kind of closed off unless they can somehow make it work. But I feel like you would probably be like more closed off to the nature side of things.
Yeah, that's fair. No, that's fair. It would change the vibe totally. Completely change the vibe to have a Talon's Palace there, right there
Yeah.
on the water like that. So it's interesting. It's very, very interesting. I am so curious about Tiana's Bayou Adventure. You have no idea.
Oh, it's the same here, man. Same here. But hey, guy, fandom, like we're getting all this stuff. Let's go full force and see what they got, man. Let's hope it's good quality stuff.
I hope it's good quality stuff. And we're lucky too. We're lucky that Bruce Vaughn came in when he did. And I'm telling you, it would be extremely weird, extremely odd for if he came in and made no changes to this attraction. I'm almost certain of it that he came in and he made moves. What those moves were, I have no idea. But it would be very weird for a new manager to come in, new sheriff in town, basically, right? And for him not to change a damn thing about this, I would be very surprised if that was the case.
So I have a question. So was there a reason why for both coasts they didn't add Mama Odie's cabin house thing on top of the mountain?
It was the weight, wasn't it?
The weight. From what I heard, the boat would have added too much weight on the structure. They would have had to rebuild the entire mountain to do it.
Oh shit. Okay.
Now look, that's an expensive endeavor. Now it would have paid off. I think it would have. I think that would have been a really cool feature, to have. Unfortunately, it was just gonna be too costly. It was like building a brand new ride almost, So
yeah,
they cut it out, But I think that works better, though. To be fair, I think that works better than the foliage thing they're going with now. And I don't hate the foliage. I'm not like oh my god, it's an eyesore. I don't think it's terrible. But I think that, like I said earlier, I think they could have done a little more with less. You can pull back a little bit on it. Like it just seems unnatural how like overgrown it is. Like it doesn't need to be that crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, actually, I said on Twitter that at least from the Walt Disney World version that it looks like an asshole and a fucking piece of shit plunging out of that thing.
Now I can't unsee that. Thank you. Yeah. I can't unsee that. I've seen everything from people like saying it looks like Cookie Monster and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, yeah, because that's just like the backside of a Muppet's asshole.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah, it's crazy. Well, Disney has a way of doing that kind of stuff, like with Morocco. Remember George and Epcot?
Yeah.
That whole thing. And I got to be honest, the Islands of Adventure Light Tower.
Oh, you could definitely, yeah.
I don't know, man. That looks a little, So yeah, there's some innuendo with a lot of this stuff, but
puts a whole new meaning to a flashlight.
Yeah, exactly. Lighthouse, yeah. But thank you, gentlemen, for joining today, talking about Tiana's and the gift shops and all that. It's interesting, I think that this is going to be my prediction for Tiana's going forward. I think it's going to be kind of like on a grander scale, like a Frozen Ever After. I think it's going to be that kind of style attraction. I think it's going to have a lot of impressive animatronics, which I think at least for Anaheim, I've never been on Florida, so I can't comment on it. But I think for Anaheim, it's going to be a step up. The animatronics are definitely a step up. I think some of the show scenes are going to be a step up too, because they're going to incorporate these amazing animatronics. They're probably going to have some projection mapping and things like that incorporated into these scenes. I think people are going to be surprised at how beautiful some of these scenes are. So I think in that regard, I think it'll be a step up. Now they have, and I forgot the gentleman's name. If anyone at home knows, or George, you might know, you're good at this stuff. Who's doing the music for Tiana's? Do you know the name offhand? The gentleman, the jazz?
Oh,
it's at the tip of my tongue, and I forgot. I do apologize. Yeah. I might add it in
add it down in the description.
In the description of the comments. But he's working on the music. That's cool. We'll see how the music is. The music, a lot of people like the old Zippity Doodah and what have you. I think that this could be. I think the Tiana's thing could work with the music, but it just has to be done right. I think you have to incorporate going down the bayou in there quite a bit. I think that's a perfect melody or song for that. That attraction. If you weave in some of these older songs with some of the newer stuff, it could work. But that's kind of an execution thing. We got to see how that all plays out.
And really quick, I just want to add into the notion too, where the voice actor who does the voice of Dr. Facilier, that they invited him to some sort of I don't know if you would call it like a press release or something, like a Q&A type of thing about the attraction and the land and what have you. I believe he was part of that equation, which I don't know if he was part of the Q&A or if they just invited him as a guest. But I thought that was kind of interesting that they would utilize a voice actor whose character is not part of the attraction.
And that's what I'm saying, George. Because they're utilizing a voice actor whose character is not in the attraction, right? They're utilizing a character in Ray who's not part of the attraction for their gift shop. I'm just saying, what I'm saying? It seems like maybe there was some sort of story changes or whatever when Vaughn came in. Maybe they're going to incorporate some of these other characters. Again, I'm not saying that for sure. But it seems like there might have been some movement in this direction. It's very odd they're bringing him in for this attraction Q&A, and he's not in it. I find that a little strange, a little weird.
And also, I want to bring up this too. Do you think, because I know for our version here in Splash Mountain, I don't know about Florida's, but you guys know in Disneyland's version, the logs fly through that ride, man. Like you have no time to take in the scenery and the scenes of everything. You're just bam, 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 flopping over the damn log. So do you think that they will find a way to be able to slow the logs down so you're not rushing through all the scenery?
Maybe. Yeah, it's a possibility. That's interesting point, Ebba. Yeah, I'm not really sure. They might do that. They might slow it down if they can. I don't even know if they can, because with the water they might need to keep it a certain speed. I don't know. I really don't.
Yeah, because it's just gonna be kind of disappointing if we have all this new greatest latest and technology and audio animatronics, and we can only see them for 2 seconds because we're flying by them. So hopefully they're able to find a way to kind of slow down the log so we can actually enjoy what we're looking at.
Yeah, exactly. No, 100%. Well, gentlemen, it was an honor and privilege, talking shop with you today, talking Tiana's. George, I will start with you, young man. If you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you'll find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There he is. And down below, we got the one and only Michael Ebba. Mr. Ebba, if you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. You guys can find me on Instagram, Michael Ebba, also on Twitter or X at Michael Ebba 1991. And you can find me here with these beautiful, sexy gentlemen on OG 55, where we talk nerd shop and all things theme parks, news studios, you name it, you got it. We're here.
We're here. Absolutely. Ebba, you always make that look so easy, bro.
And really quick, is the guy that did the music PJ Morton?
I believe so. I think it sounds familiar. Yeah, I believe so. So interesting. Yeah, we'll have to dive into that more because he's a famous musician, and I feel terrible for forgetting the guy's name. But yeah, we'll talk about it. Next time we do a Tiana video. We'll kind of break that down a little bit more. But thank you all for watching this episode of OG 55. And as always, have a wonderful, wonderful day. Goodbye, everybody.
세상은 누구에게나 공평하게 추악해.